Thanks for joining me. It is December 22nd here, 2016, so it's getting real close to Christmas. I wanted to do a video about something I saw here recently, I think 3 days ago, on Stefan Molyneux's free domain radio program. It was an interview with Alex Jones, a dialogue between these two gentlemen, and it was called A Facebook Fake News Censorship Campaign. And it was really interesting. There was something that happened on that interview well, firstly, full disclosure, I love Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux. No stranger to InfoWars and the crew over there. I was watching them quite frequently during the presidential election, and free domain radio with Stefan Molyneux and Mike. I'm there all the time, just about every day I visit that website. And so anyway, they were having a discussion about, basically it was broader than just Facebook. It's about the corporate legacy media censorship of what they're calling fake news, which I think to any rational, intelligent, critical thinking individual, we know that's complete rubbish. The fake news is the corporate legacy media. The closest you're going to get to real accurate information is in the independent researchers and journalists on the internet. But something very strange happened, and you can leave comments as to whether or not you think I'm seeing this correctly. I think I am, and that is that at one point in the discussion, Alex Jones takes a sip out of what is obviously a bottle of Coca-Cola, and then a few minutes later he takes another sip of Coca-Cola. And it really shocked me. It caught me off guard because it's such a recognizable brand. You know, it's probably one of the most recognizable brands on the entire planet for many years now. So I could be wrong, but I've never seen him advertise anything on his website but his own products. For him to take a sip of this Coca-Cola twice on this interview with Stefan Molyneux, to me looked like a product placement ad. So to me, what that signifies is that somewhere in the background, Coca-Cola got a hold of Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux, possibly just Alex Jones, and said, look, we need to make some allegiances here. We need to create a pathway into the independent media because the corporate legacy media is in the process of flailing around in quicksand with its hair on fire. The legacy corporate media is in its death throes. They are just self-immolating. It's actually quite phenomenal to watch. I never thought I would see anything like this, but it's anytime I see anything coming out of the corporate media, it's just another fiasco. And if I'm right, you know, then that brings up the question, and that's why I'm doing this video, to bring up the question, you know, is it appropriate at this point for independent news, independent media to be incorporating advertising revenue into their business models? I think that they have approached people like Alex Jones and said, we need to get a pathway into this. You have the viewership, you have the loyalty in your viewership. We need to disengage from the corporate legacy media. It's imploding. And so again, as I said, this brings up the question, like, should we be going down this road? Is this a sellout to the big corporations? Is this going to affect content in the productions that say potentially people like Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux are going to do? And for what it's worth, my opinion is no, I don't think it's going to affect their content. Or put it this way, it doesn't have to affect their content. To be clear, I haven't had Cablevision now for a minimum of 15 years. It's probably closer to 20, but I just say 15 to make sure that I'm not over exaggerating. I'm being conservative. And one of the reasons that I got rid of Cablevision is I got to a point where I just despised the advertising. So I'm not a big fan of advertising in the Cablevision corporate ruled media model. The advertising, it's in your face. A lot of the time it's offensive, it's loud, it's brash, there's nothing subtle. Once in a while something intelligent, but not very often. So I just thought, why am I paying for this? Why am I paying for these people to charge me more money for my product so they can create more ads that I despise? So I haven't had cable, and I'm not a big fan of advertising. But having said that, I'm not an enemy of advertising either. I mean, if we are in a reasonably well-functioning free market capitalist system here, you are not going to get away from advertising. Advertising is part of the deal. People have to be able to get out there and get their product known. And advertising is a perfectly legitimate medium for that. But I think it has to be, for me to be okay with it, it has to be done in precisely this format of the product placement ad, which is a kind of a non-traditional, very subtle, very unoffensive form of advertising. For example, like Alex Jones taking a couple of sips off of Coca-Cola. I'm perfectly fine with that. I would even be fine with a 5-second video clip of just the Coca-Cola logo at the end of the video. So, you know, a quick product placement endorsement, you know, a 5-second 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of Coca-Cola, done. No audio, just a screenshot of the Coca-Cola logo. If that was generate revenue for people like Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux, I would be perfectly fine with that. I would have no problem with that. So you see that a lot of the time these two gentlemen, by the way, you know, if this is what's going on, Coca-Cola is approaching two of the titans in the media, in the independent media, which I think is extremely smart. Oh, and I'll just touch on this matter as well. If you'll notice, if I'm right about this, then what Coca-Cola is doing is disengaging from the legacy corporate media and going into the independent media where things are for real. Right at the exact same time, Coca-Cola's major competitor being Pepsi, right at the time that their CEO, Indra Nooyi, is pandering to the corporate media and scaremongering about what is at that point her new president. You know, saying things like, oh, you know, my staff is coming to me and they're frightened. The women are asking me, are we safe? And the LGBTQ WXYZ is saying, oh, are we safe? And, you know, they were almost hiding under their desks. You know, what a bunch of rubbish. What a bunch of complete over-exaggerated pandering rubbish. She was pandering to the media and the media was pandering to her in return. So I think this is why Coca-Cola may have very well timed their foray into independent media right at the time that this Indra Nooyi of PepsiCo is floundering around with the dying appendage of the corporate media. So if that is the case, then it would be an extremely intelligent tactic on behalf of Coca-Cola. And I would say more power to them, even though I don't drink soft drinks. Knock yourself out. I think it's absolutely great. Now, the thing is, I don't think it would be selling out. I think that people like Stefan Molyneux and Alex Jones would have to be as wise about what companies they promoted for revenue, for advertising revenue, as they have been all along in the creation and the growth of their two independent media endeavors. You know, Stefan Molyneux has been very wise. He's pointed out that he does not take corporate advertising revenues because he does not want to be intimidated to change his content. And he's also pointed out that there may be a subconscious desire to change his content. But if you take, for example, that Stefan Molyneux a lot of time will be eating on the run. And so he'll be snacking on something as he produces a video. You know, he'll be munching on a banana, or he'll be throwing what looks to be like a handful of nuts into his mouth and snacking on that. So I don't think for one second that if Stefan Molyneux poured out a handful of nuts to snack on while he was doing a video, and you caught a glimpse of the logo, of the brand logo on that packet of nuts, that would affect the content of his production. I don't think Stefan Molyneux is that unintelligent. I just don't think he's that stupid. I think he's a lot smarter than that. All it's really telling us is Stefan Molyneux eats this certain type of nut, which nuts are extremely healthy, by the way. So I don't see a problem with that, and it would be the rule of competition in the marketplace. Again, if for whatever reason Stefan Molyneux's content started to change because he was showing the brand name of the nuts that he likes to eat, then you go somewhere else. The way I'm seeing it after thinking about it is that if we want the corporate media to be done and over with because it's not real information, it's just propaganda, I think that we actually have an obligation to give these companies that have this advertising revenue, huge amounts of resources at their disposal, we need to give them a path into the independent media. And I think we can do it. We just have to be smart about it. And I think we can be smart about it. We have to be able to give them the ability to advertise without having ad block applied to their products. So that would be a product placement style of advertising that is unoffensive. It's very modest. It's very subtle. I think it's a sign of things to come. If I am right about this, and I do think I'm right. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. That's fair enough. But I don't think so. I've never seen Alex Jones consume a brand name product, and you don't see this really media wide, whether it's the independent media or the corporate media. You don't display anybody's product unless you're getting money for it. So people are, as far as I can tell, seem to have been very careful about what kind of brand name product is seen in any of their productions, again, whether it's corporate or independent media. So I think it was done on purpose. I think it was a product placement ad. I think it was a perfectly tasteful product placement ad. I think it's extremely intelligent of Coca-Cola, if that is the case. I hope they crush PepsiCo. I don't drink soft drinks, but when I did, I used to drink Pepsi. I will never drink Pepsi again. They also have a brand of oats. I eat oats every morning. I didn't know that Pepsi owned this particular brand of oats. I don't eat those oats anymore. In fact, I've got groceries coming today, and they won't be that particular brand because I refuse to support PepsiCo in any way, shape, or form willingly. So anyway, I just wanted to do this video to point out that I think that independent media has to start seriously considering making pathways, avenues for some of these massive corporate resources to find their way into independent media. We just have to be smarter about it than the traditional antiquated legacy media has been to date, because they're bought and paid for. But I think it's doable. If I'm right, more power to Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux, if that was the case. It looks like it might have been just something on behalf of Alex Jones, but if Stefan Molyneux did it, I would trust him absolutely to be able to incorporate some kind of advertising and the revenue generated from it into his productions in an intelligent fashion that wouldn't affect the content of his programs. So anyway, I just wanted to put that question out there. By all means, make some comments as to whether or not you think it's selling out, or you think it's the wrong direction to go, or whether you think that I may have a point in the sense that, we need to make paths for these. If you want to complain about big corporations, knock yourself out. But if you don't give them any ability to access the market that wants them to do better, then you don't really have anybody to blame if they're getting up to no good. So we need to be able to befriend these large companies, give them pathways to deploy their resources into the independent media, where we make the rules as to how things will be done, and make it a win-win-win situation.